Cheslin, you are a lady. Your Shannon Waters tears of joy that flow.
On today's show, we discuss how Munster can sign Cheslin Kolbe and still stay within their IRFU budget via a series of third-party investments involving King John's Castle and Barry Murphy plagiarising Champagne Supernova.
The one true love that I have ever known.
Whilst at the same time, Ruan Pinar signs for Ulster, gets paid via Donegal and gets done for money laundering.
Joe presents Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Hello and you're very welcome to Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby here on Joe Together with Guinness. It's straight from the frying pan into the fire for all the Irish internationals this week. Back into two Inter-Pro championship games, and we will look back at Munster versus Ulster and Connacht versus Leinster. We're also going to talk about Sarries, not Sarri from Sarries, because they're denying it to the ground. Fla's going to come on and talk us through what the hell is going on in that, because we don't really have a notion, do we?
Oh, I speak for yourself.
You don't have a clue.
When Fla says something, I was just going to say exactly that.
No, I don't anyway. But you had a good weekend?
Yes, I was at Rory Best's testimonial on Friday night.
Right. Another party for Rory.
Yeah, another send-off. No kids there.
Was there not?
Tonight,
No
that night,
kids.
no. But yeah, good night, and a lot of House of Rugby, Baz and Andrew fans.
Good. Penguins?
A lot of penguins.
Yeah.
A lot of penguins.
I like when people start referring to themselves as penguins when they meet me now. It's brilliant.
I'm a penguin.
Yeah.
Is that an admission?
Yeah.
You know who's not a penguin? Ian Henderson. He's not watched a single episode or listened to a single episode. He didn't even know you could watch it.
That doesn't surprise me with him though.
Yeah, it makes
he
me think-
definitly watches like gardening shows or something.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's that makes him think. That makes me. I don't. Not sure even if he was aware who Alex Payne was before he started the night. Alex Payne was hosting the whole evening. So then that makes me think: does he not even watch any Sky Sports rugby?
Probably
Back
not.
in the day, obviously.
I wouldn't think. He always struck me as a fellow who's.
Yeah, but he's aloof, but he's really clever.
Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway, so if he doesn't listen to the show, we should have been slagging him more.
He
We
does
could have got away with it.
We would.
I never would.
Big
I
Aegis.
never would.
We'd have to call him in smart. So isn't he the kind of fella who like puts things in microwaves and blows them up and stuff like that?
Yes, that is the perfect activity to describe him.
He'll like run a cable to his garden and stick a microwave out there and put not a live animal but things in it like a phone or
Dangerous activities.
yeah.
Me and him once made a potato rocket. Like a proper potato, not like one of those ones.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. How bad were they?
No, this one had like a container with you spray a little bit of hairspray in, screw it on the end, and then it properly fires an explosion. Like it was. I'll send you a video.
Yeah,
we'll put up a video actually.
Okay.
It's a very successful
But,
project.
Were you working at the testimonial on Friday?
Well, yeah, yeah. Rory called me about 6 months ago and said, "We were a bit tight in seats. You can come, but you'll have to do something."
Right.
Yeah. So I had to do. I did an interview with Johnny Sexton, and Kiwi did an interview with Tig Furlong.
Good.
So yeah, Johnny and I just basically just
Slag Rory.
slag, give a few slags, and then like last 30 seconds say, "Oh, but he's great, isn't he?" It makes up for it. So yeah, we were talking about the time. One of my favourite stories about Rory is whenever he kicked Paul Marshall up the arse on the pitch
In a match.
in a game.
What?
The ball was sitting at the base of the rock, and the clock went red. It was European Cup. I forget who we were playing, and the clock went red, and we were winning. And then Rory shouts, "Kick it out, Beagle." And then Paul, I think he had made a mistake the week before, so he just checked with the ref. That process took 2 seconds tops, by which time Rory had run out of patience.
Kicked him up the
arse.
Amazing.
And then that was only the start, really, because then the following week, Beagle went looking for an apology. You don't really get apologies out of Rory. The best he got was, "I'm sorry you took it that way," which is an apology of sorts.
I remember Federico Putrello kicked an opposition player up the arse and he got a yellow card for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you remember they got in a bit of a scuffle. You remember on the way and he just toe pegged him up the hole.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Was it laces or toe? Because that could
Toe
be
peg right up the hole, like straight on the on the anus.
Yeah, geez, that'd be painful enough.
Wouldn't it?
I'd say a toe could be red.
Haven't had one of them in a while.
No,
Rather not.
don't make them like I used to.
I was celebrating with another Irish legend at the weekend. We had Paul O'Connell's surprise 40th in Liscannor, County Clare on Saturday night, which was great crack.
It was his 40th. Me and Paulie have the same birthday, you know.
Yes, you told me this.
Me, Paulie, and Snoop Dogg.
Have you not? You don't.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. There's a couple other ones I can't remember.
Wow. We should try and arrange
All of us get together.
party at some point. Yeah. O'Connell, the surprise. He was totally surprised, which was brilliant. I can't believe that. I would ruin a surprise if I was organising for someone, definitely. But it was brilliant. You know, when they were walking in, so his father and his brothers took him golfing, and then they brought him in and stuff. And do you know that photograph of Peter Stringer with his family when they all looked like those bald cats, Siamese cats or something? It was like that because O'Connell, his brothers and his dad all are 6 foot odd, and they've shaved heads, and they all look the exact same. So the dad, and it's a small public, with the duck under the door to walk in. So the dad walked in, everyone's like, and then Marcus, and then Justin's, and then by the end it was just like, surprise. But it worked really well.
Yeah.
It was a cool little duo band playing. I got up and did a few songs.
What did you?
Yeah. Did one of
Happy birthday,
Mr.
Paul
President. I did one of our songs. I did Champagne Supernova, which is standard. Like it went down really well.
Right.
It did. Peter Clossy thought it was.
I don't think that's very Hermitage Greeny, is it? It's like a.
It's easy, man. It's an easy.
Yeah, it's
crowd
easy.
pleaser.
That's what I mean.
Peter Clossy thought I'd. Is that one of your own songs? Yes, yes it is. Yeah, it's all right. Like it's easy enough.
Probably catch on.
And then after a few pints, a few too many pints probably, one of the lads, the Paul Bald, who's the masseur from Munster, who Fla gave him the nickname, which I think is brilliant. Because when he first came into Munster, he was one of Fla's mates, and he was like, I think we called one of our strength conditioning coaches, Tom Cummins, Cumbag.
Yeah.
And he was like giving out about how stupid a nickname it was. And he's like, what are you going to call me? Paul Bald, is it? And I was like,
That's that.
there you go. So he was like, I'd love if someone played Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. And I was like, I'll play it. He's like, please. So I got up and played it, and I realised after like 30 seconds, I don't know that song. I know that first riff. That
was it. Sit down.
And then everyone was like trying to sing it, and I was like, I just had to hand it over. It was good crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't matter at that point, you know.
Yeah, that's grand. Hopefully I get invited to Paulie's 50th.
Yeah, and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Right, let's crack into a bit of juicy Guinness PRO14 action. We get Jerry Flannery out here to discuss Munster vs Ulster, Connacht Leinster, and Sarries, not Sarries. Okay, welcome to the couch, Jerry Flannery. Fla, good weekend?
Yeah.
I was with you Saturday night, obviously. It's
good.
good crack. Fla ate a lot of pizza.
Not like you?
Yeah.
I had a bit of a binge.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was very hungry, but it was excellent.
very unlike you.
Does like his food. We watched the Munster-Ulster match in a little pub in Liscannor, and we had a bottle of wine and some steaks, and it was very enjoyable, especially that Andrew Conway tried to beat Ulster in the last 10 minutes. Pretty exceptional. Were you working for it, or were you watching it?
No, I just watched it at home.
Yeah.
I find that try really frustrating, just from an Ulster perspective. Actually, that's I think it's because Ulster were so fired up at the start of the game. It got me really into it. I became a real Ulster supporter. It's the least neutral I've been in recent times. And so that try really frustrated me because Ulster got themselves in a position to win the game 16-15, and then it was just really sloppy, I thought. Defense. I know it's a completely different take than you guys would have had steamboated in the scanner.
Yeah.
Watching the game with steaks and pints.
yeah. I think it was in a few of the Ulster earlier games this season, they've been a little bit lax on that inside hunt defence. Who hammered them? The Cheetahs, was it?
Yeah.
And they were caught a few times in there. So I thought it took something special for it must have been Conway, or maybe I don't know whether the coaches had done their homework to see that someone needs to keep floating in here.
The line break was one thing, but even the backfield, I thought it just looked really slow. It looked really easy. I think Sam Faddy's maybe just underestimated how quick Conway was going. He kind of seemed to get his angles wrong. Jacob probably could, between the two of them, and then Sam Carter was coming around from the far side, then he slipped the initial tackle. So it just looked easy, and it was so frustrating because Ulster had done so much hard work to get into a really good position. And then I thought if they could have held on for another 5 or 10 minutes, Munster might have started just to panic a little bit because it was an unusual position for them to find themselves in.
Munster were starting to stutter. I think you're right. Munster were starting to stutter a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the strength of the side that Munster had out, I would have thought that they would have been a lot more comfortable. But I think you have to take it into consideration as well, is that the returning internationals have had no real coaching time. They've just been chucked back in there. So alignment is going to be an issue. But
Yeah.
I thought Ulster played well. I thought Cooney had a really good game.
Yeah, he's very good.
And I thought, I think Dan McFarland and Roddy Grant will be delighted with how their set piece fronted up pretty well.
Yeah.
In terms of I think they won 3 scrum penalties against Munster.
Yeah, what was going on there? They were scrum at the angle.
I watched it back again last night because I couldn't trust my first watching it because we'd had a few drinks, but it looked like Marty Moore was actually was driving in, and I think James Cronin just came out a little bit, and once the tight head's able to hold shape, if the loose head kicks his hips out a little bit, it's very hard.
Yeah.
But Munster had.
They were fair enough then, were they?
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were accurate. Munster had one good exit scrum penalty in the first half as well, but I think Ulster would be pretty happy. But put it in context, last year Munster beat them by 64 points. So Ulster weren't. It was never going to be a real. Ulster were going to come out unbelievably fired up. Saying last time we came down here, we got embarrassed. So
there was a few things early on that happened that I think set a tone for Ulster. Boys were fired up. They were feisty early on. I don't know if you spotted it. Jack McGrath was going hard at it. Rob Herring and Niall Scannell were going at each other. Yeah. Who else? Sean Reedy was getting stuck in. Stu McCluskey. A lot of guys. It looked like they were really up for it. And it just kind of sets a tone. And I know then it's hard for that to maintain the whole way through the game, but as much as possible they did. So I think that kind of set a tone. We're going to be competitive. We're going to be fighting.
The physicality gives you a great buffer. That physicality and aggression gives you a buffer between. It would be disparaging to say that there's a gulf in class between the two teams. There isn't a gulf in class, but I think that Munster had a stronger team out there, and they should have been a bit more comfortable. But I think Ulster were probably off the back of last year's result.
Yeah.
And going into the game, I thought you were right. Yeah, I thought Jack McGrath, Herring, they were getting stuck in from the start, and just a bit of bite. And then Munster probably weren't as close behind. I thought some of the small things like Munster's actual their ball control when they were carrying the ball was quite poor. At times they just the ball was spilling out quite a lot and putting Albie under pressure. And then that has a knock-on effect then that the first pass is a little bit off, so that the ball presentation, small things that just, you think that they wouldn't be an issue, but there were.
Any major changes in their tactically and how Munster are playing the game than what you would have done last year? Like what differences Roundtree and Larkin made at this point?
Well, Roundtree I think has only come in since the Cardiff game, and Johan is still going to be doing the line-out. I think the line-out's been functioning well. Roundtree has just come in, so I think he probably would have had a blueprint that he would have wanted the lads to follow, but I'm sure he'll want to get started. We've been conceding quite a few scrum penalties, which is unlike the Munster scrum. So line out working well. Scrum needs to be tightened up, and we conceded. That's 2 maul tries in 2 games they've conceded. So I'm sure he'll get stuck into those things. And Munster there seems to be a little bit more. They seem to be playing a little bit more from inside their half. It's hard to tell, you're looking at it.
There wasn't a huge amount of phases put together to kind of.
No,
there was one point in the first half where they went. It looked like if it was Munster, maybe last year, the last few years, we would have probably kicked, and they were happy enough to just go through phases and phases, which was in around the halfway line, which I thought was unusual. They were slowing it down and just going again and seeing if they could recreate fast ball. Now it ended up, I think someone knocked it on. Eventually, it didn't work out, but it definitely looked like a different approach.
Yeah, I understand that people get frustrated when they watch a team and they go, a coach doesn't come in and make people radically better players. The coach just comes in and he has his own philosophy. So a lot of it is going to be on the players themselves, I don't think you can expect Stephen Larkham to come in and be, there's your magic formula. Now Munster are ripping teams apart. Like,
saying that, Rory Scannell probably had the best game he ever had. For
He was brilliant.
Munster, yeah.
I'm telling
He
you,
was massive.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I was saying to Baz prior to Conway's try, we talk about trying to get first receivers all the time, trying to get 2 first receivers on the field. I think for Conway's try, Rory Scannell was first receiver 4 times in a row, and then eventually they played to Tyler, and Tyler dropped Conway back on the inside. But that takes so much pressure off Tyler when you've got 2 guys organising like that.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. His kicking was awesome. Like, I think the news that Munster have signed Delende and Snyman obviously is going to piss some of the players off a little bit, but that's just competition, and Munster need to get better. So if you've got 2 guys like that, they're going to come in, they're going to raise...
Two very different types of players, though. So it wouldn't be just one's better than the other one. It'll be an occasion that suits one of them, or a type of game plan that would suit Scannell, or one that suits
Yeah,
Delende.
like when I saw Scannell at the weekend, like the best stuff that he did was stuff that you would normally associate with an out half. So he kicked so well. Those 4 phases you're talking about before Conway's try, like he was first receiver, putting a wide pass across one forward to another, risky enough pass, but so flat, so accurate. And going out the back door a few times as well.
Sorry.
Very disrespectful.
Which, yeah, you're right. I mean but like now JJ's out. It looks like he's going to be out anyway. Sorry, I didn't hear the reports on his injury. Carberry obviously out till after Christmas. It looks like it. Could Scannell potentially slot in as the 10?
Well, the only other options I think they have really is going to be, like, Jake Flannery is out with a shoulder injury. He had his shoulder done. He's had surgery. So Ben Healy, I don't know how much Ben Healy is featured. So then I'd imagine that Rory becomes the next guy up. But
Realistic starter though is where I'd be considering.
I think that Tyler's going to start. I would imagine Tyler will start, and then but it's who's going to be your 10 cover. So they'll expect Tyler to try and play the 80. What you said there, sorry, just what you said about Delende, said that it's rarely going to be horses for courses, man. If you sign Damien Delende, think of the actual, you approach the RFU, you approach the CEO in Munster, and you say, listen, we want to sign this guy. He's you go out during the World Cup, you meet him, like he ends up being a World Cup winner. You have to put together a case as to why you have to sign him, and if you sign him then, and you come up with the money and you sign him, you're going to play him. You're not going to not play him. Like, look how much Fardy and James Lowe play.
Well, the point, I was having a conversation with Ian Henderson on Friday night, and he said actually they're all raving about Dan McFarland, and they're saying so during the summer after pre-season, even Rory, Hendy was saying that Rory came back and did a couple of sessions with Ulster in the week breaks in the pre-season. And he said despite how fit and how tough the sessions are with Ireland, he came back and still struggled for fitness at an Ulster session. So anyway, they're loving McFarland up there. And then one of the big things about McFarland that Hendy pointed out was that everybody's droppable, and everybody's got an opportunity to play as well. And he's not going to be a slave. I don't know if it's just being told, or certainly he feels like the culture is such that guys can get opportunities, and there's not going to be guys like Delende who come in and definitely get a start. I think all those positions are up for grabs at Ulster. I think that's a big strength.
Yeah.
And surely Van Grant's going to be the same. If Delonde doesn't play well and Scannell plays as well as he did, there's no way. Like, you can't do it. You can't just because someone's more valuable, more expensive. Well, listen,
I know you're right. Like, and I'm no doubt if Rory is playing best at 12, he'll get picked ahead of Delende. But the point is that as a coach, when you sign that guy, you've identified that he is going to make you better.
So why would they have been allowed to sign him if?
Well, Munster, like, I think they've got Arno Botha. Albie Matheson is going to be his contract is not going to be renewed. So then they've got Arno Botha, and after that, like, they haven't got a huge amount of foreign players. Like
12s, they've got a.
Well, like you've got Dan Goggin, you've got Sammy Arnold, you've got Rory. Tyler can play 12 as well, but like Munster keep being a semi-final team because there's it's for a reason. Like we're lacking quality somewhere. I'm not saying it's the 12, but across the board, Munster are lacking quality. Munster have 4 regular international starters. You've CJ and Pete, you have Conor Murray, and you've Earlsey. And if you look at the teams that win the European Cup, they have 9 regular, 8 to 9 regular international starters. So that's like they have twice as many of those, say, premium players at international level. Like Leinster would have 9 players, 8, 9 players who'd start for Ireland. Sarries would have 8, 9 players who'd be playing regular starters. Like you've got guys like Conway's in the form of his life, but he's not a regular starter for Ireland. John Ryan, you know, he has to work really hard to get into the Irish squad. You know, John Klein didn't play regularly, and the difference is that from a financial point of view, when you've 8 to 9 guys who are starting for the Irish team, it has a compounding effect, because then the RFU start looking at them and start saying, let's put these guys on national contracts. So then you don't even pay, you get those players for free. So now you have a bigger, that's where Leinster are. Leinster have, like, you can't hate it. Like, if you're to look at, and we'll chat about Sarries later, if you're to look at what Sarries do and what Leinster do, the Leinster model is so sustainable and it's so strong. They're getting these players, they're coaching the shit out of these young players when they come through. Now, their players are in really good shape when they come through by virtue of how strong the school system is there. And then Leinster have like a lot of really, really top class players on national contracts, which frees up a lot of money then to go and bring in a James Lowe, a Gibson Park, bring in a Scott Fardy, and supplement that when the internationals are away, that they have a pretty strong base there, and they have experience in there, and then they bring in these young players, and those young players don't cost a lot of money. So that's, Leinster do it really, really well. The trick is that, like, you can't just say to Munster, Ulster and Connacht, just replicate what Leinster are doing, because the Munster, Ulster and Connacht academies don't have the same player pool, they don't have the same resources, so they have to try and do things a little bit differently. They have to try and innovate. If you just try and do the same thing, the infrastructure in Irish rugby is always going to lend itself to being Leinster. You know, Leinster will come out on top.
Yeah,
but
I think as well as Scannell played at the weekend, you look at a backline of Munster with Murray, Carberry, Delende, Farrell, Earls, Conway.
yeah, the question is,
Healy went well.
Yeah.
Haley, I wanted to ask your opinion. Like, Mike Haley, man, he has massive high moments. You know, like, I think where he's just got to work to is he's got to eliminate some of the real lows. Like, he'll do
Drop pass from that.
that drop pass.
Yeah.
And he was man of the match against the Ospreys, and he did some fantastic stuff. But then he would have like Stone just cold dropped the ball. And if he needs to work those things out of his game. I think he's like chatting to him like he's so much talent. He was thrown in. He was playing. I think he could have been playing Premiership rugby at like 17, or he was up with training with Sale. You know, he'd be quite cheap up there, thrown straight in. There isn't probably the amount of development time around that. Like, so he's got to develop. And I think as far as I know, he's really focusing on developing good habits around improving his game. Because if he can round his game, like he could be a serious player. But there is good scope, like whether Conway wants to focus on being a 15, because I think that realistically that position is probably, you know, there's probably it's an easier way to get into the Irish team at the moment if you're comparing between Stockdale and Earls on both those wings. Like, Earlsy is still as good as he's ever been. He's been phenomenal. Stockdale's only going to keep getting better. And then you've got like Rob. Rob is probably at the latter stages of his career. So I wouldn't discount Rob, but I think Conway's energy and the intensity that he brings to everything is quality.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see him at a 15 personally.
Yeah,
looking
It never ends up as straightforward though. I remember there was pre-seasons in the past whenever you'd be going, geez, if everybody stays fit, who's going to play this position or who's going to play that position? So you're looking at Scannell, Farrell and Delonde. One of them will have a knock. There'll be a rotation.
Yeah.
Like, it'll never end up one purely gets ahead of the other by all three of them being fit and you seeing who the best two centres are. You may, but it won't happen that often.
The
reality is all three of them will get a lot of game time.
If Conway's at 15, then you really need that first receiver. You need 2 first receivers as playmakers, or else you just don't go with that. But I think to play a more expansive game, you need to have it. You know, to be constantly challenging defences, you need to have 2 guys who can organise. And I don't think Delende, he certainly didn't play that role for South Africa in the World Cup, but man, he was awesome in the World Cup. Like, in terms of like, and I know that like Johan would, if you watched the way that when the Bulls were in Super Rugby, the way Johan had the team playing then, along with Heineke Meyer, obviously he was the head coach, but you know, they love a 12 carrying hard into that channel, and then forwards coming off 9, and then you start to play, start trying to play a bit more expansively off that. But I could see it. But like, that's the beauty of, you get Rory Scannell's best game there once Munster signing Delende. So it was good.
Speaking of Ospreys, Saturday night Champions Cup, they've lost. They've won 1 out of the last 6 games. Obviously, a lot of players come back with Alan Wynne-Jones and Tipperick and George North. What can you expect from them, or what?
Jeez, man, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
They've been really, really bad. They've had a lot of injuries and they've lost a lot of their key players.
Yeah, it'll be a completely different team, will it not? Because it's like, how many guys are coming back? Pat? Like, there's enough guys to come back.
Yeah, because they went all the way up to the 3rd and 4th place playoff as well. They'll have to be filtered them back in as well. But yeah, you'll have...
There's enough guys there coming back in for that to be...
They'll have Nicky Smith.
Completely different.
Wynne-Jones might come back. Tipperidge probably come back. He's the captain. George North looked like he did his hamstring in that game.
That's right. Yeah.
In the World Cup, so he might not come back. Watkin maybe as well. They'll have around 4 or 5 lads come back in, I'd say.
Yeah.
They've been really, really poor.
Yeah.
Watching them, really, really poor. So I think Munster are going. Like, I'm looking at it like, just from my own personal point of view. Look, all the stuff that I would have found tough, like competing with Leinster, is really, really hard in the league. To compete with them. And Glasgow have been really, really good as well. Glasgow have looked pish this year, but Leinster still looking like the team. Like, Munster beat Saracens, Munster beat Ospreys pretty, with a bonus point. But Leinster put 50 points on them. Like, Leinster were just ripping them apart. So they're still setting the standard in the Pro14. But like, to compete with a team like Saracens, man, is actually, you're like, oh, how are we going to compete with this? They had 9 players involved in the World Cup final. 9 players from one club team involved in the World Cup final. Like, that is so hard to compete with. So then, if you look at it now, from what I understand, Saracens are just going to send like a 2nd string team over to play Munster in the European Cup. So Munster have a fantastic start now. If Munster start well against Ospreys, which I think they should comfortably do that, then Racing, then coming into the Sarries games.
You think Sarries will pick a poor team against Racing, or a weak side against Racing this weekend?
The weird thing is that, like,
can they do that in the?
McCall came out and said they were going to prioritise the Premiership, and they may even pull players from the Six Nations, because the players make so much money in Saracens, or they probably do make so much money, but like, they love Saracens so much. They have such a good culture there, that the players just want to just do whatever it is to help the club.
They can't pull us from Six Nations, surely.
I don't know. You see, they're not centrally contracted.
But in international windows, they have to be released. Do they not?
Yeah, but I don't know. I know
what you mean. They all have like this wolf pack. They all talk about
they're going to put all the resources into making sure that they do not get relegated. But like, if they go out then and they send a 2nd string team over to play Munster, like, that's actually, you have to field your strongest team in Europe as well. So if they go over and they send over an academy side, like, that's Mickey Mouse in the Champions Cup. So it's like they're constantly pissing somebody off. But they don't care. Like, they don't care. And I saw Alex Sanderson's comments after the game, the Gloucester game, and it was like the same as any, like, everyone kind of goes like it's arrogant, and it does come across arrogant, but like, it's the same mentality almost every club would have when everyone is turning on you. You know what I mean? You just circle the wagons and you just say, listen, we're going to make this work. And he was,
he quoted Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
But then he felt obliged to like continue the quote. Like, it's like, haters going to hate. And he's like, hate.
I know. I suppose, look,
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
He probably wants to send a message, and he can't tackle or pass or do anything on the field. Yeah. He's just a coach, talking.
He was fired up. And it was a reflection of where they're at. Did you see it cut to the changing room where Wigglesworth was like celebrating like they just won the European Cup?
Yeah.
That intensity, so that's obviously fresh for them. At the minute, they're obviously feeling like they're the victims. Again, well, I'm sure we'll get into this a bit, but they're coming out fighting. That's fine for a couple of weeks. They can't keep that intensity and that hate and that motivation going all season. Sanderson said this actually.
Well, it'll blow over to a certain extent, like the fact that they're, whatever happens, whether they'll get the points deducted or whatever. But that it'll blow over. So they need it now when their backs are against the wall.
They need it all season though, because they need it all season. And what I'm saying is, at the minute, it's easy for them to be motivated and fired up. But as the weeks go on,
jeez, if they keep chipping away at it every week, and you know, what an interesting.
I know, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
It's
ladder
brilliant.
to climb, like, yeah.
Because it just makes the whole Premiership is so much more interesting now, especially because there's no Newcastle this year. So it's realistic that they could go down, and the thought of Saracens going down is, from a neutral, is so interesting. I was going to say hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's too serious to be hilarious from their point of view, but it's so much more interesting than it would have been before.
Yeah, it's going to massively devalue the Champions Cup if they don't really compete in it, but it's going to open up the Champions Cup hugely as well. But surely that you get fined if you don't put out your strongest team in the Champions Cup.
But how can they police that? You know,
It's happened. I think that were Agen fined a few years ago for putting out a Mickey Mouse team in the Champions Cup. I'm not sure exactly, but I know that's a thing. You can't just, like, if you just get knocked out, if you lose your first 2 games in the pool stage, you just go, oh, fuck this. We're just going to put out second string. It's devaluing the cup.
Yeah.
So-
Can you get fined for that?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We need some sort of stato
I know.
to tell us that.
yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Confirmation.
But it's going to open it up, and I think it opens up the Champions Cup then massively for the Irish provinces, for
So-
Munster and
For you as a coach, then, looking back to, obviously, Saracens have beaten you a few times over the last few years and gone on to win the cup. Is that very frustrating for you to think that they were essentially cheating, like, for, you know, winning the Premiership allowed them to get into the Champions Cup, having those players, obviously, they were cheating essentially. So.
Well, yeah, you got to put it in context, man. They beat us, and they beat us well both times they played us, and they were just better than us. You know, you can't complain. I think we probably gave a better account of ourselves in 2016, which was basically exactly what Rassie did with the Springboks, and they won the World Cup. We tried to do the exact same thing that first year with Munster, and we got to a European semi, and we got to the final of the PRO14, but we just.
But they wouldn't have. They are not. I'm not saying they wouldn't have, but they beat you and they beat you well. But if they hadn't have been operating the way they were, then the argument is they might not have had a Farrell or
They
might not have had like 2 or 3 influential players, and then they might not have beaten you.
Yeah,
It's as
yeah.
simple as that.
Were you aware of this? Were you aware of it at the time, like, for the last few years? You kind of looking at them going, they're cheating.
I wouldn't. You would look. Every club has to work to a budget, and I think the fact that Munster have debt with the RFU in paying off Thomond Park, so it's a constant balancing act. And I think Munster are in a really good position now, where I said they're in a position where they can sign Delende and sign Snyman, because they've been developing and they've been coaching guys to become Irish qualified to free up those marquee slots. And I think it's great that the RFU are backing them to sign those 2 lads. I think when you look across at Saracens, and Rassie would have made the point that there's loads of clubs out there with loads of money. Like, you go to France and they've loads of money. Saracens use their budget, which would be way bigger than what we would have in Munster. They use it so well. So that's why you have to give them credit in that, like, look, they pay the players really good wages, and they obviously have these investments that they do with them, which obviously sweetens the deal. And then they know that, listen, when you finish playing with Sarries as well, we'll look after you in terms of jobs. And then, you know, you hear rumours around that they do third-party stuff where they'll buy a house in someone's name and put it in the wife's name and pay it off. And the reality is that how do you police that? Like, if they come back and Sarries go, now our salary cap is fine, and say, yeah, you just signed Elliot Daly, and now Elliot Daly's his wife has got a £600,000 house, which is being paid off in a company that she's a director in, along with some people from Saracens. That's very hard to police. So that's just the reality. Is that but Saracens do, like, Saracens. It's not just the case that they're just lashing money at the players. They really, really look after the players as well. Like, I was so impressed, and when we got beaten, like, the context is they had better players when they played against us, and they're coached better than us as well. They outsmarted us when we played them, but you still have to get everything right. Just because you have loads of money doesn't mean that you're gonna get it right. Like, and they look after. It's not just the players; they look after the families. And that, like, when they have a guy who's full time in charge of looking after the welfare of the player, and that's holistically meaning his family as well. The wives come in and they straight away get, if you sign for Saracens in the morning, you're not nervous about rugby because it's what you do better than anything else. You're nervous about, will Anna and the kids be settled in? over in London. So they're aware of that. So then they bring Anna in, and they bring all the kids into a creche, which they have on site at the club. They take all the wives and the partners off. They bring them into Harvey Nichols inside in London for the day, and they get their hair done. They go shopping. They do all that shit. Like that is insane. Like that is so big picture thinking. Because then when a club comes in and say, we want to sign Andrew Trimble, and you go home and say, listen, we're going to make a few more quid. And and Anna's just there, I'm not going anywhere, because this club, it looks after us so well. And the players are bought into it. Like, and look at the guys that come through their academy system as well. Like, they have a great academy system. They're able to do this because they have huge budget. They have massive private. That's the difference. They have massive private backers.
But
so
Nigel
Saracens
Ray he's the heartbeat of the team as well. He genuinely cares for the players and cares for the welfare, as opposed to when you see the French clubs who pour a load of money into them, and our fellas pour a load of money into them, but they don't really seem to be that invested in the future of the
it's
team.
a much, like, taking the Saracens model, you could apply it in other clubs, you just can't apply it to the same level. What would be interesting is that if Saracens didn't have the money to give players jobs after they finished playing with Saracens, if they didn't have those connections, if Saracens didn't have the money to be, buying a house for you as well as your contract through your wife, or if they weren't being able to look after the players so incredibly well, would they still have the same buy-in? I think that they'll have as much buy-in as other clubs, even if you took some of those things away, because of how they look after the players. And they've just got a really, really good mentality in there. Like, you look at Sanderson coming out, like, and just saying, listen, it's us against the world now, and they're all in it. And I think they're going to have, it comes down to it brings up this really interesting issue of, like, who's looking after rugby in the long term? Like, who is looking at, like, when you bring in, when you get really, really wealthy guys who come in and they buy a club and they inject money into the club and they bring it to life, like what have happened in Exeter, or what Nigel Ray has done with Saracens, that's pretty phenomenal. But there's got to be a balancing act where, because they'll drive player wages up, because they're not. I don't know how much sustainability is on the sustainability of the game is going to be on their agenda. They're looking at, they want this new thing that they have in their life. They want this rugby club. They want it to win, and they want to see success. They want to get the best players in, and they want to see things done in meritocracy, in terms of, like, when they saw Champions Cup and there was no real, a certain amount of Irish teams qualified automatically, a certain amount of Italian teams. They're like, well, I'm pouring all my money into this club here in England. I want to see that the other clubs have to work as hard as I do, just because they're funded by their home unions.
No, it's in a lot of ways, all the stuff you're talking about is really admirable. Like, I think that was generally the Saracens brand for a long time, and this is definitely going to damage that. But even kind of, so you're saying that Nigel Ray is really concerned about Saracens. That's his big investment. That's his baby, and he loves it, and he invests. And it's different to him just pouring money in, as you're saying, to the French guys, which is admirable. And he's created a really amazing environment, and what they've achieved is amazing. And even what they've contributed to English rugby has been amazing. They've contributed in a massive way to England getting to the World Cup final, and they potentially should have won it, could have won it, but they've compromised rugby in the Premiership in general, though, because Exeter might have won 2 more Premierships if they hadn't have, again, if the same argument for Munster, if they didn't have Vinopola, if they didn't have Farrell, those guys hadn't wanted to stay because they mightn't have got.
We'd have won the European Cup, and I would definitely not be sitting here with you. My life would be very different.
Felix would be sitting here with us. But, and it's just, and I just heard a few other guys talking about there could be civil cases about loss of earnings for Exeter, for example, because they've maybe lost sponsorship, or
I need to get a solicitor, man, and send a few letters into Sarries, man. Look what my life has become, man.
You'd have a great case. We could be witnesses for you.
Yeah. So look, we are.
It really is bad behind the scenes as well.
You're
right.
right.
I mean, there's so much going on, and it's not even come out yet. So none of us know the extent of what's going on, or even the details of what's going on. So we genuinely can't be too opinionated. But there are guys who are opinionated, and they felt like they've lost out because it's not been a level playing field.
It's not. But that's it. It's not level. And but how do you stop it? Like, if there's a guy who's a millionaire who wants to get players in, and they say there's a salary cap, and he says, okay, well, I'm going to pay this guy this much money, and then I'm going to pay his aunt. I'm going to pay your aunt X amount of money.
But Aunt Janet from the Easter Islands.
And you know, like there's just, how do you stop it, man? When they start doing third-party payments, it's just so hard to stop if they want to do it.
Like, is it profitable? Is the club profitable?
No, the clubs are losing money. Like,
is that sustainable then? For like, is it damaging the game long term, or like to pay these players?
Is it damaging
$500,000?
Is it damaging the podcast?
Are we in trouble? I think that the point I was getting to is, it's great to have people who are passionate about, like Nigel Ray coming in, coming in with his claws, and look, developing a club like Saracens. That's great. There needs to be a balance between. You need to keep looking after the long-term view of the game as well. That's why a salary cap is there, to try and create a bit of a level playing field and try and make things reasonably sustainable. If you look at it in Ireland, because all of the clubs are pretty much run by the RFU will be looking at the long-term future of the game. So they want to grow the game. They want some of the Italians team to be, they want to get Italy participating in the Champions Cup. They want to try and, you know, there has to be a level of meritocracy as to how they get in there, but they're trying to grow the game. Otherwise, it would just be the teams that have the most money are going to get the best players, and then if anyone that tries to compete with them that doesn't have those, if Worcester suddenly decide they're going to just throw millions at it, and Leicester are here, and Leicester are run as a traditional club, and let's say Leicester are ahead of where Worcester are, and Worcester just start massively inflating the salaries for players, and all the players go to Worcester, and then Leicester try to compete with that, but they're just running the club and they're making a loss, but it's actually killing the club. Whereas Worcester's, if the guy who's backing Worcester says, look, I don't mind, I'll throw 30 million at it over the next 3 years. But say, for instance, then he gets tired of it and he goes, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of losing money with this rugby hobby thing. Then that's when the game becomes in trouble, because he steps away, yet the club might just fall apart then. So
I presume that's what happens in France a fair bit, like.
I think, yeah, to a degree, but it's getting a balancing act where you're trying to make sure, like, otherwise that's why they have like that GIF rule now, where you have to have a certain amount of your players in the squad in France, in the top 14, have to have come through the academy, to have to come through the French academy system. Because otherwise you just come in and you say, I've got loads of money, I'm going to sign these best international players in the world, and then the French national team, like, doesn't, you know, it struggles. So there has to be a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension between the governance of the game, making sure that the game is sustainable, making sure that you're developing the game in probably, you know, the weaker countries, and then, you know, that it's, I suppose that there's a, you know, that someone who comes in and puts money into the game can see, listen, I can compete here. But it's not going to get solved, and the reality is I can't see how Saracens Saracens will find a way out of this for sure. They won't have
seem to
to
be pretty confident anyway.
Yeah.
That they've not done nothing wrong. They're adamant that they're within the rules. Everything that, like, as you said, how can you govern them given?
They're blatantly have broken the rules.
Yeah.
Blatantly broken the rules, and
But,
they're just
they haven't defined what
that's not
rules
come out.
Yeah,
but like you don't whack out a 35-point deduction and a £5 million fine unless you're pretty sure you're like, this is. And I think they'd had warnings for it before.
Okay.
And it's not a massive surprise that, like, while all the other clubs are losing money in club rugby, all the other clubs are losing money, Saracens can just keep on signing the very best players. They have Liam Williams, the Welsh fullback, who's absolutely British and Irish line, absolutely outrageous. They've got Alex Good, who was like European Player of the Year, and then they've just signed Elliot Daly. Like, when we played them last year, they had Schalkberger on the bench, man. And I was like, if he was in Munster, he'd be one of our highest paid players. There's no way he'd be on the bench. They have Will Skelton there, like, who's kind of like, oh, we might start Will Skelton, we might start George Cruz, or we might start Maro Itoje in lock, or Ezekwe, who's another international. They have such a massive roster of brilliant players because they can afford to get them all. But they're obviously circumventing some of the salary cap by doing things a different way, by paying players outside of it. But I don't see how you'll stop it. I genuinely don't see how you stop it. Like, I think Exeter's point was that they had to leave Cordero go to bring in Stuart Hogg, and they're saying, well, if we just wanted to work the Sarries way, we would have paid Cordero indirectly through a third party or something like that, and we just would have kept them all. but that it doesn't help the game long term. But
Yeah.
I can't help but admire Saracens
Yeah.
for what they've done, because even if you have all the money, because there's French clubs out there who have all the money, they've done it in a really, really good way.
Yeah, I hope they don't rest some of their players and play a weaker team in the Champions Cup, because I'd love to see Munster go up against their full side. And moving on to Leinster, I think
If I was coaching Munster, I'd be like, absolutely send over your shittest team, please.
Nah, I think we can take them. Leinster probably the number one competitors for the title this year, both Pro 14 and Champions Cup. Did you watch them against Connacht the other night?
Yeah.
Thought that first 40 minutes was pretty flawless 40 minutes, one of the best you'd ever see in a Pro 14 game. Connacht were poor, but Leinster were absolutely relentless.
We discussed this on Saturday.
In private.
Pre-production.
In pre-production down in the
Pre-production,
hinge,
non-ready.
lashing through wine and Guinness. We were just saying, like, if you looked at it, whenever Connacht had the ball, there was just a wall of blue jerseys. And one of the things that strikes me about the Leinster game that they do so well is their decision making around when to contest for the ball and when to just leave it. And even when they do contest, how quickly they bounce back out and fill the line when they know that the ball has been slowed. So it's just constantly a wall of blue that you're trying to defend against.
They use the chop tackle really well.
They're so
back
good
row,
at it, man.
just like getting off the line and not being in two minds as to what kind of tackle they're making. It was straight for the ankles, just bringing them down quick, one over the ball to compete or not, and that just it stops the attack so quickly, and then just your line is set straight away again. I was just so impressed with that.
you consider what Connacht had out, and then when you watch the Champions final, and you have Billy Vunipola carries that ball into that wall of blue. Next minute, that wall of blue just loses 3 players straight away, and the whole wall starts going backwards because Billy Vunipola makes 3-4 meters, and then they've got fast ball, and then next one is Mako Vunipola or Maro Itoje or George Cruz. Or it's so hard to defend.
Maybe though with the chop tackle, like that's something I don't think Leinster. It was the first time I'd really noticed it. I don't know if they used it as much last year. Maybe that's something they've identified, that they need to put this into practice now if they're going to come up against Saracens again or come up against the bigger sides. That they're going to have to stop that at source.
Can't run
away.
without their legs.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they always say? The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Hollywood cliches.
Yeah, everyone spoke about like Ronan Kelleher. Looks like he's really like he's been a standout performer for them.
Yeah.
I think Max Deegan
6
as
tries
well.
in 5 games.
But I think I really think Max Deegan is quality as well.
They've been saying that about him for a couple of years though.
Yeah, and I'm the same as you. When you see it and you watch, you don't see it straight away. You start going, oh. But there's little subtleties to his game. Like obviously I think it was it for Leinster's first try, he had that deep clean and that opened up the slot for Kelleher to get through on the switch with McGrath. But like little things, I've just watched him against in the, I think it was the Ospreys game or the Edinburgh game, just looking to get his hands free with little offloads, little subtleties to his game that I think, and he's still physically developing. He's still got a good bit to go. I think between himself and Kelleher, they've got 2 really, really quality prospects there.
What back rows Leinster are going to get back into the squad for this weekend, and then a couple of those young fellas are going to miss out, or
Van der Fleer, will he be back?
Yeah.
Or will they give him a break? I'm not sure. Ruddock featured.
Coleman's obviously going to be out for another while.
I wonder how much further Levy is going to be, man. Levy is
He's a while,
not
yeah.
till next season, I don't think, man. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
I met him. I was doing a gig with him the morning of the Japanese game.
Yeah.
And he said he was coming along pretty well. Like Ireland missed him hugely.
Yeah.
But they just, even the 15, that Hugo Keenan, he didn't really stand out now at the weekend, but he looks like a really good player as well. And Jimmy O'Brien, that 13.
Brilliant player.
Leinster just keep producing these players.
Conor
They've got
O'Brien did
the
at
model.
13,
The model that they have is phenomenal.
It looked like if you took each player and you at the weekend and you said, these are the 6 things I want you to do in your position. You got to nail these. It looked like that's what they were about. It was just this well-oiled machine that every cog in it was doing its job perfectly, completely understood what they were doing. And that's so impressive. Even Joe Tamani, who hasn't been hugely impressive for them over the last year, they had him in 12 and he was just carrying really strong, running really hard lines, and you couldn't take your eye off him if you're a defender, and then they were going out the back of him the odd time, and it was just like so relentless. That the understanding there seems to be pretty sharp, and as you said, Scott Fardy and James Lowe, them that experience, and
Toner.
Toner, yeah.
They've got. I think if you look at the Connacht side, like Carthy showed his ability to win the moment, like that his crossfield for Fitzgerald was absolute class. And
was that Pox or was that?
No, I think that's meant, man. You look.
He's done that. He's done that a few times. That we kind of around the corner.
Unorthodox, kind of like almost like. You remember when you used to watch Serie A, Italia 90, or like the Italian goalkeepers, the way they used to kick the ball? They used to kick the ball and kind of volley it sideways. Yeah. And Stephen Fitz, it was a brilliant finish from Stephen Fitzgerald as well. He was in Munster for a good few years when I was there. He's got a turn-up head. He's got a really big head. Yeah. But like he's... I just wanted to bring up to call it turn-up head.
You mixed it in nicely with the serious point. He's got a turn-up head.
Great try. Yeah, he reminds me of Mike Haley in terms of like massive high moments. Really capable of like winning the moment.
But he's got a turn-up head.
Yeah, look, it's in terms of having a root vegetable as part of your anatomy. He's managed really well to get to where he has. But like it's enjoyable seeing players that you would have worked with, particularly younger lads, getting game time and flourishing. And I'm sure with Nigel Carolan and Andy Friend, he's going to keep getting better and better and better. But Connacht looked like they are a good few players short what they showed there at the weekend, particularly like losing Beelum early doors. I think. Like not having Delan or Quinn Rue, Thornbury as well. That they're big losses for them because they give a bit of ballast to their pack. I love that word, ballast. But I think like Farrell in the centre is a really good player. Adi Alokan is starting to look.
He looks like he looked a few years back that season when he was on fire when they won the league.
Yeah, and then but getting Bundy back in the field. I think Quaylen Blade is a decent player as well. He's busy, but they are short a few players. They are short a few.
Yeah.
So.
But take nothing away from Leinster. Heading into play Treviso this weekend in the RDS. Did Johnny allude to whether he'd be featuring?
No, we weren't talking any rugby really. He spent the whole night slagging me for being a journalist. I think because you've rattled him in a couple of press conferences, Pat, that he knows that we're associated with you. Yeah. So it doesn't reflect great on
Pat goes after him all the time.
It could be worse. It could be Jacob Stockdale getting blamed for fucking absolutely everything. We're like, Jacob Stockdale's only going to be on the wing for the next 20 years for Ireland, and he's going to hate us.
Would you like to come on the show, Jacob? But I don't know if Johnny's going to be. I don't know.
Yeah,
or not.
I'm sure he'd be mad to get straight back into it, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
See what he said when he's actually hit the nail on the head so clearly when he said, I know the way this is going to work. I think he said it before the World Cup. He said, you're going to say that we're all going to be too old and they need to get rid of us after the World Cup. I can see it happening already. It's just a cycle. It's just a cycle in the media where they just come along and say, yeah, they're too old, they have to go. And that's actually the reality. He just sees it as it is and just said it like so.
I think he just hates the media in general. He didn't say this, but I just get the impression he never opens up. Actually, there's very few guys can get him to open up and share, and he just kind of puts a barrier up. He's like, I don't need this.
Yeah, well, look, there's two ways of looking at it. They're like, you need the media to give some attention to the game, to make characters out of some of the players, and then the players then. When the media, when they do interviews and people get a feel for the players, they start going, oh, I like that character. And then that player then gets a deal with, gets an endorsement deal or something like that. So it's a game, but I can understand like when the players are putting absolutely everything into it and then someone make ill-informed comments or anything like that, you just go, fuck these guys.
Yeah, I think it's
100%.
more likely for a player to get tripped up by opening up and being kind of presenting more of their personality and relaxing more and being more themselves. They're more likely to get tripped up and regret saying something than to get to end up being like James Lowe and being lauded and getting
Yeah.
commercial agreements. I just think there is the opportunity for that, but I think most players are risk averse and they just want to get through it and let their rugby do the talking.
You know what? I'm not sure if I had this. I remember I was talking about this with somebody else. I'm not sure whether it was on the House of Rugby in the UK or not. But if you look at the way a lot of the guys from the English team, look at Joe Marler, what a character he is.
He was on Jonathan Ross on
It's unbelievable.
Friday night. He was brilliant.
But like you look at all those guys, Haskell and all. I remember when I played against them, we used to be like, how are they so out there in the media? How are they so? But they're competing with professional football. So like if you want to have any kind of a profile over there, like they have to come out of their shell a little bit because they're competing with footballers who are on millions and millions, you know. So if they want to get any attention, they have to be out there. They have to show it. Whereas in Ireland, like the rugby players, the money comes to them. Like, you know what I mean? There's only like, who have you got? You've Johnny Sexton. You've got Conor Murray. You've got like the big dogs in the game, and they're going to get their endorsement deals whether they put themselves out there or not. So there's no real incentive for them to go out and say, I'm going to open up and let people know. It's because their main job is to be a rugby player, and if they feel like they're going to get screwed over a little bit by the media, then
Yeah, I think you get rewarded more from it in England as well.
Yeah.
Because it's higher profile.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if you saw Jonathan Ross with Ben Young's
Tom
Tuatara
Curry.
Lange, Tom Curry, yeah. And Marler was just holding court.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. And he looked ridiculous. He was wearing shorts
saw
and
it.
hiking boots
Boots.
and like high socks. We like country gilet.
Yeah.
But he was just holding court, looked as comfortable as anything. He was brilliant. I thought it was class. The other three, I'd say probably looked a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But he was fine. He looked like he was in his element.
yeah. Well, I suppose it's
Haskell's the same. He's another guy who just puts it out there, just really backs himself, and he seems to be himself. Really popular with the boys. Anybody who's played with him loves him. Really popular with supporters. I don't know. It could be. Is it an Irish thing as well, though, for us to be just a little bit more? I'm not humble, but just more like introvert.
reserved. Yeah, probably is. I tell you, like Cavey did. I saw Cavey. I'm not sure where I heard him talk about it, but it could have been on the Rugby Pod or something. I'm not sure what it was on. But Cavey was just talking then about.
Bleep Rugby Pod out.
Sorry. I might have heard him talking in a toilet one day about it, about how like he just gets tired of how the exact same interviews just get wheeled out and the players don't really show any of their personality. Probably why everyone thinks that you're shit crack. And now we're trying to change that, like, because you're like, so Andrew, what about this weekend? And you'd be like, oh well, hopefully this weekend goes okay. It'll be a big game. We certainly expect them to be physical. And they go, oh God, that guy's such a crack. And now we're trying to change that view of you. But he was talking about it. But like,
Are people come up saying that to you a lot? Like, you're way more, geez, you're way more cracked than I thought you'd be.
I can't believe you're actually interesting.
Because they say it to me all the time.
Yeah.
Jeez, I can't believe Trimble.
Yeah.
I get a lot of, geez, the show's brilliant. Barry's brilliant. All right, thanks.
I get the opposite.
I'm brilliant too.
Yeah, you are.
And Flies.
Of course.
yeah, it's interesting, but I think if there's no incentive for the players to be out there, the funny thing is that like when you think of all the squads that you played in, you've got some lads who are just unbelievable. Like they could be stand-up comedians. Like Dave Kilcoyne, man, is absolutely hilarious, man. And people probably don't know that about him. Do you know what I mean? They just don't know that about him. Whereas he's gold. Like Zebo is really, really funny as well. I think people
know that about Zebo now, don't they?
Zebo's constantly like, can I do another Paddy Power video or something like that? But he, like Zebo is a real character as well. And I suppose Zebes puts himself out there because he wants people to know that about him. People don't know that about someone like Killer.
Killer's a good example. You're right. Not that many people know that. He was on the bus in South Africa. He took over on the mic from Donica, and those are big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And Killer, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like he was just holding court the whole time, slagging boys.
Just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He really doesn't care.
He's smart, man. He's actually like he's quick-witted and he's smart. Like people don't give him credit for it. Like, but he's sitting there, his little fat head, thinking up little things to wreck you, like and slag you and shit like that.
He doesn't look smart, but he's smart.
Yeah. So I suppose until there's an incentive for players to really go out and put themselves out there, you never know who the real characters are.
Yeah.
But I think
We'll try and drag it out of them. That's our role, lads.
Yeah.
Get them onto the couch. Get them to tell jokes. Drop my pen. All right, we'll take a break and we'll come back with black and white. The scores are pretty embarrassing. Hey, that's not right.
okay, time for black and white. This week's black and white is based on a theme of Saracens and money not being any object to acquiring players. So you've got to pick a province. You've got to pick an international superstar marquee signing and explain why you think he's going to benefit that team. And then this is the kicker. You've got to put together a package for that player, a remuneration package with benefits and details so that won't raise any alarm bells in the RFU. Okay?
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Fivefold.
yeah, so it's pick the province, pick the international superstar you're going to sign, tell me why you're signing him, and then you've got to put together the details of his package and how you're going to circumvent any alarm bells with the RFU going, you can't pay that guy that much money.
Okay.
Do you think you can do it in 60 seconds?
I'll try. Could need to push it out.
We don't have to put so much of a time limit on it because there's a couple of stages to it. Okay,
Yeah.
Baz,
Yeah, I got it.
you go first. So give me the province.
Munster.
Oh, standard.
Would you believe it?
I know it well. And
Yeah.
it's, familiar.
Okay, give me the player.
Cheslin Kolbe.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Why?
Class,
Because
yeah.
he's class.
I have to ask the question, why?
Because he's class.
Okay, class, can you give me a little bit more?
Because I think we're probably lacking a little bit in back three. So if we put Conway to 15 and we put him on the wing, I think it justifies us signing him.
Okay. Now,
I preferred his
Right.
class.
okay. So how are you going to sign him?
So this
now?
is like a
so
video.
Hang on a second.
I'm going to
so,
send him a VHS of a video.
so at the moment, the
All I can
RFU
offer
were like, lads, your budget is gone in Munster now, so you can sign Cheslin Kolbe, but I don't know how you're going to pay for him.
Barry Murphy's going to pay for him.
Okay, tell me what's the package?
Who's billionaire? I've just written an album that's like skyrocketed me to be
You wrote
a billionaire.
You wrote Champagne Supernova.
Yeah, I wrote Champagne Supernova. Okay, we flipped it. So
Peter Classy, we bought that album. That's a decent album that supports your man.
So yeah, okay, I've made millions off that. So what first thing is, if you have to know Limerick to get this, but I'm sure you might.
I'm sure I'll get it.
I've bought him King John's Castle, so I'm like Cheslin Kolbe. I bought you King John's Castle. You're going to live in King John's Castle.
He's only a little fella. He doesn't
gonna
need a full castle.
Change the name. He just likes to run around.
Okay, go on.
So it's now King Kolbe's Castle.
Okay, King
And
Kolbe's
give him a little
Castle.
throne with a crown. I've bought him Adair Manor for his kids, so they're going to maybe move him out there as a creche. And JP McManus is going to be their butler.
Jesus, that's
that's
pretty.
Champagne Supernova, man.
Yeah.
And I bought him. I make him a monorail that will just get him around Limerick, and he can only have to go to the place he needs to go to. Like
You probably can't give the stuff directly to him. It probably has to go to his wife or to his kids. So Adair Manor we can give to the kids.
Pennies for his wife rather than or Brown Thomas. Pennies.
I'm sure.
She can live in the clock.
Okay.
Like the Hunchback.
Why? If he's got King John's Castle, why is his missus going to live in the clock?
I don't know. It just fell. I saw it and just said it.
Okay.
And what else? That's enough. He can do it around. He can put like biltong.
Any features in King John's?
Starbucks.
We're going to put a Starbucks,
Starbucks.
in King Kolbe's Castle.
In King Kolbe's Castle. He can do what he wants with it. And that's pretty class, isn't it?
That's pretty impressive. He's going to have.
Or I'm going to Limerick, You're a Lady is the song for Limerick. That's our song. I don't know if Coleraine has a song. Limerick, You're a Lady, and I'm going to get Beyonce to re-record it and change the words, and Colby, You're a Lady.
Oh, Kolbe, you're a lady. Wow.
And
Good
then
finish.
get her to release it, and then it will, and he gets all the rights. Because I'm good friends with Beyonce now, because I wrote Champagne Supernova.
Happy days.
He finished
Listen,
very strong.
Yeah,
Very
that's strong. Okay, Trimby, team.
Okay, right. So I have no musical ability, so I wasn't able to. I'm just talking about financing.
Hang on a second.
Oh, sorry.
Team.
Ulster, obviously.
Ulster. Okay, predictable. Player. Hello, smacked arse face.
Rian Pinar.
Ruan Pinar, okay.
Want him back?
He's on the pension.
The reason why we're signing Ruan is because we have got used to not winning as much. So we're going to continue not to win as much in terms of success on the pitch, but we're going to win hearts and minds.
Okay, so John Cooney's probably been your form player. John Cooney's not going to be happy.
Still, I'd rather have hearts and minds than Cooney.
Okay.
Sorry, Cooney.
Hearts and minds.
Minds.
Yeah.
Because you can't put a price on those.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I could.
So you can't.
Okay. Tell me, what's his package going to be?
Okay, first of all, I've haven't got any musical ability to create a smash hit like Champagne Supernova, so I put together.
Lady.
Yeah, I put together what do you call that? A syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
A syndicate. So syndicate is going to be including Dame Mary Peters, who I know you two are familiar with because they introduced us a while back. Jimmy Nesbitt and Julian from UTV. So those three.
What about you?
So those three are gonna front up.
My mates used to give me shit that I looked like him. I was like, for fuck's sake, man. Julian from fucking UTV.
They're gonna put together the.
Sorry, who's the second one again?
Cash, Jimmy Nesbitt.
Okay, Jimmy Nesbitt.
Jimmy Nesbitt's in my head because
Phone
we were
book
sitting beside him on Friday night at Rory's. Yeah, he played Colin Hoyle, the dentist from Coleraine who killed his wife, and then Anna on Friday night kept calling him Colin. So anyway, that's the three of them in the syndicate. They're going to front up the cash. Ruan is going to come over initially and stay at Julian's house for the first few weeks. Yeah. Because
Julian/me.
So yeah, he's going to stay at Fla's house for the first few weeks, and then he's going to move into Stormont, where the assembly aren't actually in position at the minute. So I know you two aren't in any way interested in Northern Ireland politics. Stormont is where the assembly meet, and they haven't been meeting for the last couple of years.
That sounds like a nice gaff.
It's great, yeah. So, but it's quite.
Does it need any work?
It does need some work, actually, but more importantly, it needs staff. So Ruan is going to bring over 5 of his teammates from the Cheetahs. Ooh. 5 of his, so I'm getting 6 players for the price of 1.
Joseph Dweeba,
and they're going to work
yeah,
for him.
Volmink. They're going to be cleaners, cooks. They're going to be
careful.
They're just going to.
So Joseph Dweeba.
Yeah.
Oxneash.
We don't need to get into the details of. We're just going to pick.
Well,
the 5
you just
best
made
teams.
them cleaners.
They're just coming over to help keep Ruan company, and then we may call on them for Ulster every now and again if we need them.
Okay.
Okay. So the financial package that we're putting in place for Ruan is, first of all, we're going to give him the Giants Causeway.
Okay.
He's going to get Slemish.
You know you can't give the stuff directly to him.
Fine. Listen, the syndicate,
has he got a wife?
The syndicate are purchasing it.
Okay.
No, and then they're going to give it to Volmink and his 5 teammates from the Cheetahs.
The cleaners.
The cleaners and cooks.
Giants Causeway.
So the cleaners going to be paid by Slemish. The cook's going to be paid by the Giants Causeway. Someone else is going to get the Lagan, the river. Someone's going to get the Tato factory.
Your potatoes are fucked, man, eh?
What?
Are the potatoes, are northern potatoes in
trouble? No, Tato factory, like the crisps.
Yeah, are they not in trouble?
Or are they?
No shit.
Well, it's fine. Listen, it's still better than nothing.
He could go to Japan after the Cheetahs. You got to put together a decent package here.
No, man. Listen, the best thing's coming next. He's getting Donegal. You know why?
You don't own.
Get out of it. Sorry, lads.
We don't own
it's our
Donegal.
province, but it's your country.
Give him one of the other ones.
That's bollocks.
Lads.
That's bollocks.
No,
man.
sorry, it's been done.
That's bollocks.
It's been done. That's the beauty.
It's bullshit.
That's the beauty of 9 counties and 6 counties.
Nah.
So it's been signed.
That's controversial. Okay, well look, without doubt.
How many special people?
Barry Murphy wins this one because
How many lives are living straight?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Where were you? Are we?
I swear.
There we go.
This has got very political.
The Donegal one pushed it.
The Donegal was the goal. That's why I saved it to last.
Okay, lads. Well done.
In a champagne. Right, everybody, thank you very much for listening on all your favourite apps. And for those of you watching on YouTube, please do leave a comment. I'm happy if you're going to be nasty. Would you be happy nasty?
Yeah.
Nastiness?
Yeah.
Be mean, but be
mean.
creative and be entertaining, and we will read that review out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to Pat, Paul, Dermot, and Anthony. This has been Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby on show together with Guinness.